a time, there lived two brothers named Tobechukwu and Nana. The brothers lived in a village far down in the east. Tobechukwu and Nana became apprentices 2 years ago for a very rich man in the village called Mazi Uzoka. Mazi Uzoka took them in to teach them his business, as they were from a very poor family who could barely feed. Mazi Uzoka's business thrived and soon became a household name in the village. This was the case till one very day when calamity hit Mazi Uzoka's business. His warehouse was set ablaze and all his goods burnt in the fire. It was a really devastating time for Mazi, whose business began to face great challenges. A lot of his workers left, and he was struggling to resuscitate his business. Nana called Tobechukwu aside and told him that he was going to request for his settlement money from Mazi Uzoka, as he had received a better offer from Mazi Ikenga, who was a popular business rival of Mazi Uzoka. Tobechukwu was so disappointed in his brother, who had forgotten all the good things Mazi had done for them, especially for their poor family. He reminded his brother of how poor they were before Mazi stepped in to make their lives a lot better. But Nana was unwilling to listen, as his mind had already been made up. Nana then walked up to Mazi Uzoka in his house to request for his settlement sum. Mazi Uzoka had promised Nana and Tobechukwu that he would give them a huge amount of money to start up their own business after they worked with him diligently to master the business for 6 years. The brothers had only worked for 2 years and had not fully learned the ropes of the business. Nana had, however, made up his mind to leave Mazi Uzoka to go work for Mazi Ikenga, who had offered him a job in his own business. Mazi Ikenga, on hearing about how close Nana was to Mazi Uzoka, hired Nana in a heartbeat in order to spite Mazi Uzoka, as they were rivals in the business. Tobechukwu and Nana were Mazi Uzoka's favorite workers, who he treated like family. However, as Mazi Uzoka saw how serious Nana was on leaving, he gave him his settlement sum for the 1 year that he had worked for him. Nana was extremely happy, as he now had money and a better job with Mazi Ikenga, whose business was now thriving in comparison to Mazi Uzoka's business that was now struggling after the fire. Tobechukwu remained with Mazi Uzoka and stayed by his side despite the fire and all the difficulties that his business faced. Tobechukwu was penniless most of the time, but this did not deter him, as he served Mazi Uzoka diligently. Gradually, they began to rebuild the business, and it was a very difficult journey for Mazi Uzoka and Tobechukwu. Nana, on the other hand, squandered most of his settlement money on women, as he was never worried about going broke, especially as his new boss was now extremely wealthy. One day, this was 2 years later, Tobechukwu approached his brother to request for some money. His only daughter was extremely sick and needed urgent treatment. Nana vowed never to help his brother, and this led to the death of his brother's only daughter. Nnanna at this point had made some money from his new boss, but he was unwilling to help Tobechukwu because he was cross at him for turning down a request he brought to him a year ago. It happened that a year after leaving Mazi Uzoka's business, Nnanna invited his brother Tobechukwu to his new house and asked him to come work for his new boss, Mazi Ikenga, who had personally sent Nnanna to go convince his brother to come work for him. News got to Mazi Ikenga that a certain boy named Tobechukwu was the backbone behind the steady growth of Mazi Uzoka's business. Mazi Ikenga then decided to do all that was within his power to make sure that Mazi Uzoka's business never flourished again. When Tobechukwu turned down his brother's proposal and refused to come work for his new boss, Mazi Ikenga, Nnanna began to have a lot of issues with his boss, and this made him never forgive his brother for putting him in such a precarious situation, as he believed that his boss hated him because of his brother, and this angered him greatly. One calm evening, Mazi Ikenga began to scream that someone had stolen some money from his office. He then instructed that everyone's bag be searched, and shortly afterwards, the money was recovered from Nnanna's bag. "How did this money get into my bag?" shouted Nnanna, who began to cry that he was innocent. Mazi Ikenga then handed Nnanna over to the police, who arrested and locked him up in prison. After several years of struggling, the turbulent times finally passed for Mazi Uzoka's business, which began to flourish once again. This was Tobechukwu's sixth year with Mazi Uzoka, and his boss's business had now become the most successful business in the village. Mazi Uzoka, touched by how Tobechukwu was loyal and diligent all these years, gave 40% of his business to Tobechukwu. Tobechukwu, on hearing this, broke down in tears, as this was way bigger than what he ever anticipated. All this while, Tobechukwu was unaware that his brother was locked up in prison till one afternoon, when a young man approached him and told him of his brother's arrest almost a year ago. Tobechukwu, who was now extremely rich, was shocked to hear that his brother had been remanded in prison for almost a year. So he rushed to see his brother in prison, and when his brother sighted him, he began to weep, as he was ashamed of himself and all the horrible things he did to his brother Tobechukwu. He pleaded with his brother for forgiveness, especially for his role in the death of his brother's only daughter. Tobechukwu was in a lot of pain at this point and told his brother that he had forgiven him, but that he would not have anything to do with him ever again. Nnanna lived with the pain of his decisions all through his life, and he wished he made better decisions in the past. The lesson to be learned from this story is that it is important to be loyal to people who have been good and kind to you. Do not pay people's kindness with evil, as it always has a way of catching up with you. Also know that it is okay to forgive people and not have them back in your life, especially if you need time to heal properly from the hurt that they have caused you. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.